Good evening, everyone. It looks like we are ready to stream live. We're ready to get started when you are, Liz.
Thank you. So we had just given a few minutes for folks to sign on, knowing that today is not our regular evening. We want to start out by welcoming everyone to our 58th South Fresno Community Steering Committee meeting. My name is Liz, and I am joined here tonight by my two colleagues and co-facilitators, Amy and Bekela, and we are all from the Harder and Company facilitation team. And before we open it up for our usual welcome and introductions, we'll just take a few minutes to set up interpretation, knowing that we have some folks who are newer and maybe a little less familiar to the process. And then we will go through our logistics and housekeeping slides. So I believe I will pass it to Tanya, who will give the instructions for tonight.
Thank you so much. It's actually going to be me, Emilia, but no worries. Hola, muy buenas tardes a todos y bienvenidos a su junta del Comité Directivo de la Comunidad del Sur de Fresno. Lo que vamos a hacer ahorita es explicarle un poco acerca de cómo acceder a la interpretación. Como puede ver ahí dentro de la pantalla, hay un icono de un mundo que aparece abajo de su pantalla si usted está utilizando una computadora. Y luego le saldrá un menú de opciones, seleccionará español y los invitamos a silenciar el audio original. Pero si usted está utilizando una tableta o un teléfono, su proceso será un poco diferente. Buscarán los 3 puntos en su pantalla que digan More o Más en español. Luego deslizarán hacia arriba en el menú de opciones hacia donde dice Interpretación. Y luego cuando han seleccionado ahí les va a salir otro menú de opciones que dirá Español o silenciar el audio original. Asegúrense de seleccionar Español. Y cuando han acabado un paso muy importante, seleccionarán el botón que diga listo, done o finalizar. De esa manera puedan ingresar al canal de español. Muchas gracias. Would you like me to repeat that in English as well?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Of course. So for all of our monolingual English speakers, we also invite you to join a channel in case anybody who speaks Spanish does make a comment. You'll be able to hear it interpreted into English. If you are using a computer, you'll look for the globe-like icon that appears at the bottom of your screen, and then you'll select English. Please make sure not to mute the original audio. If you are using a tablet or a cell phone, your options will look a bit different. You'll look for those 3 dots that appear on your screen that say More. Then you'll go up in the menu of options to where it says Interpretation. You'll then select English. Once again, do not mute the original audio. And when you are done, a very crucial final step that we do not want to miss is we want to go ahead and select finalize or done, whatever appears on the screen. That way you get into that English channel. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Emilia. And if anyone is having any trouble with the interpretation at any point, please do let us know and we will make sure that we assist. So we will move on with our housekeeping slides. So on my screen, you are seeing our renaming conventions. This is important for our attendance tracking and our stipend distribution process. So we ask that if you are a member of the CSC, that you please indicate that in your Zoom name. If you are a CSC member, you would put the CSC in your name. And then if you are a resident, we ask that you also put an R. We may be changing your name throughout the evening, so don't be surprised if you see that. On this slide, we have another reminder about the renaming conventions. If you are not a member of the CSC, we also ask that you write your organization name in your Zoom name so that we have an idea of who is here and who is a member of the public. So here's our virtual meeting etiquette. We ask that you stay muted unless you are speaking. And if you are joining by the phone, you can press *6 to mute and unmute yourself. And if you have any questions or thoughts that you would like to share, we ask that you raise your Zoom hand. And if you are on the phone and would like to participate and raise your hand, you can do so by pressing *9. And then we have another reminder here for residents in the stipend program. It's a requirement that you stay on for at least 75% of the meeting. So that would be 90 minutes out of our 2 hours together. And on this slide is a review of your group agreements. So everyone here has agreed to help achieve the meeting goals by focusing on solutions, opportunities, and productive dialogue. We want to make sure that we're mindful of creating space for everyone to participate. That might mean stepping up if you don't typically speak, and if you tend to talk a lot, maybe step back and give others an opportunity to share. We also ask for everyone to be kind and respectful, knowing that it's okay to disagree as long as you do so with respect and empathy. In these meetings, we also agreed to stay on point and on time, and so we ask folks to try to keep your comments brief. As we've said before, we do recognize the urgency and importance of these conversations, and we do not want to cut them short. Though we also want to be respectful of everyone's time here. So our team will be doing our best to keep us on track and on time. And in the case that we are running behind in the agenda, we will check in with the CSC and ask how you would like to proceed with the remaining time. Next, we also agreed to attack the problem and not the person. And then finally, we agreed to seek common ground. Building consensus and finding shared values will help us all achieve the best results. And here is our agenda for this evening. So as a reminder, the agenda topics are representative of those requested by CSC members, which have come through in past meetings, including the CSC meetings and agenda setting meetings. So tonight we will have our welcome and introductions, introduce our co-hosts. We will have our action item tracker review and follow-up. Then we will move to the urban greening and vegetative barriers update. Next, we will spend almost an hour tonight talking about the SERP incentive measure discussions that have been happening. Then we will wrap up with standing updates and then next steps. And we want to also share that reflecting on tonight's agenda, we want to just make it clear at the beginning that these items are designed to keep the CSC up to date on the recent SERP progress, and also to give CSC members time to process and provide feedback on the recent developments. So we do not expect to arrive at any decisions in tonight's meeting. And instead, we want to really ensure that all CSC members are leaving tonight's meeting with clarity on the updates and the process so that we can make an informed decision potentially at the next CSC meeting. And so with that, I'll stop sharing my screen. And we can move to our welcome and introductions. And again, thank you for bearing with me, and just want to welcome everyone again to our 58th South Fresno CSE meeting. We would like to extend our thanks and gratitude to everyone for your flexibility in joining tonight. We know that this is not our normal meeting time on this Tuesday. We had to reschedule a couple times because of a conflict with a TCC meeting. So thank you so much again, everyone, for being here. And as we saw, we do have another packed agenda tonight, and we are excited to welcome our co-host, Bill. who supported some of that development. Bill is one of your fellow CSC members who, again, has graciously agreed to co-host some portions of tonight's agenda. And so I'm happy to pass it off to Bill for some, maybe some brief background about you and the work that you've done within the South Fresno community.
Well, thank you, Liz. My name is Bill Jensen, and I've been a member of the CSC, and I appreciate your patience because I haven't done this co-chair before. So I really envy so many of you are so eloquent with your speeches and so forth. I hope I'm not too disappointing. My background is we moved to the Central and Maple area in 1967 when they built the Kinder Morgan terminal, and we've operated out of there. We deliver fuel, oil, and so forth to farmers, and before we moved there, we had several bulk plants, one in Fowler, one in Kingsburg, one in Sanger, one in Aubrey, and one in Shaver. We've closed all those, and we operate solely out of the Kinder Morgan terminal there. We have a warehouse and office and a shop, and then also a truck stop that we built in 1985 where we cater more or less just to local people. There's a few come in off the freeway, but mostly it's set up with a card lock facility where customers give cards to their employees, and when they come into fuel, they swipe the card, put in their truck number, mileage, and that sort of thing. And then it's easier for them to keep track of the fuel that the drivers are using, and it makes them a lot less apt to have any fraud that goes on, where in a normal truck stop, sometimes drivers will, sell the fuel to somebody else and put the money in their pocket. There's things like that have happened, in years past. But we also have a business called Tank Specialties over on 4th Street, and another business called Advanced Emission Control System, where we would install diesel particulate traps on trucks prior to the 2010 trucks where they went with a different SCR system. So anyway, that's basically my background in a nutshell. And I really appreciate all of you coming tonight and listening. I know it's not easy after you've worked all day to, tune into a meeting, and I'll try to answer any questions later on that you may or may not have in regards to heavy duty trucks and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill. We are excited to have someone with your extensive knowledge of trucks supporting this meeting tonight. And I think the community really appreciates the knowledge that you share as well. And so I think we can pass it to Ryan for some quick opening remarks.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. And no, you did a great job of sharing your appreciation for Bill. Bill, thank you for being a co-host tonight. Really appreciate when people kind of step out of their comfort zones and volunteer to participate as a co-host, and appreciate him meeting with us in advance of the meeting to provide us feedback on the agenda and how we can discuss and talk about the items on the agenda. I do want to also share my appreciation to everybody. Tonight meeting was kind of off schedule from what we normally do. And I know we have some newer members that are part of this. And so we had made a commitment going back about 2 years. There's another process called the Transformative Climate Communities that Fresno was also a grant recipient for. And so they have regular meetings. And so each year when we're scheduling out our meetings, we look at the schedule for the Transformative Climate Communities Fresno, or Transform Fresno, apologies, process. And so at the time when we scheduled this, there wasn't a conflict, but then I think there was an issue with the availability of the meeting place that they use. And so it then conflicted with this month's scheduled meeting. So just really appreciate everybody's flexibility and finding a way, as Bill said, after a long day to come here tonight and to talk about continuing to implement the South Central Fresno Community Emissions Reduction Program. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that context too, Ryan. And so that will wrap us up for our welcome and introductions. And I'm happy to transition us to our action item tracker follow-up. So part of our work together, as many of you know, is to increase transparency and accountability, which is why we continue to dedicate this time to review the action items at every CSC meeting with the committee. So we appreciate the Air District's effort to continuously update this tracker to ensure that the CSC's voices are heard and that you are able to monitor the progress that's being made towards implementing your suggestions. And as a reminder, at the end of every meeting, we will share the action items back and encourage any members to add anything that was missed. And so as Nancy provides updates tonight, please do feel free to ask for clarification or any questions. Our team will take note of any follow-up questions that are asked. And if they can't be answered tonight, we will make sure to follow up at an upcoming meeting. And so with that, I will pass it to Nancy.
All right, thank you, Liz. This is Nancy. I'm going to be sharing my screen and going over the action items for tonight. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat or email me. I'll drop my email in a second. I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see the action items? Perfect. Okay, so just kind of going forward with this, we did update the format of the action items. So it's pretty simple to use, but if you need any additional help, I am more than happy to walk you through this. So what you're going to do is just click on any of these 4 topics. For example, the in progress one. So it's going to take you to the most current action items. So this one is from the previous CSC meeting in August. The action item reads, at an upcoming CSC meeting, the Air District will provide a presentation going in depth on the local Amazon warehouse emission and compliance with the indirect source rule. And so with this, the topic is included in lists of additional agenda topic suggestions. Air District will work with CSC members and during agenda setting meetings to determine upcoming meeting topics. And so I kind of just want to remind everybody that we do have our agenda setting meeting this Thursday. So if you're interested, please join, please come and give us topics that you would like us to talk about. And then so proceeding forward, so if you want to return back to the front page, you just click right here where it says return to beginning, and it'll take you straight back here. And so moving forward to the next action item, we're going to go to complete. And for this one, it's from the previous CSC meeting as well from August. The CSC agreed to form a heavy-duty truck replacement subcommittee to further discuss the community's questions and concerns regarding the proposed changes to the SERP measure. And so we actually did have a subcommittee meeting on August 22nd, 2023 from 4 to 5 p.m. You are more than welcome to watch the video recording here, and we will also continue the discussion further in later on in today's meeting. So once again, if you want to return to the beginning, go ahead and click right here. And then so our last action item for today, it's also from the last meeting in August. Community members are encouraged to sign up for the City of Fresno's land use planning email notifications by emailing planning@fresno.gov. CSC members can reach the City of Fresno through their email to receive land use email notifications for further assistance. You may also contact the Fresno's planning staff at 559-621-2489. And so we only had 3 action items for today. And so happy to take any questions if anybody has any comments or concerns, or if they just want to know more about any of these action items. And so it doesn't look like anybody has any questions right now. So I will go ahead and put my email here down in the comments section, just in case anybody needs to reach us for any concerns, comments, or they want to leave any suggestions. And with that being said, I can just pass it back to Liz.
Thank you so much, Nancy, and really appreciate you dropping your email in the chat and making yourself available to the CSC. And I hope folks take advantage of that. And so I think if there are no questions that we can move on to our next agenda item, and I will pass it to my colleague, Bekela, to get us started.
Thanks so much, Liz. Good evening, everyone. It feels a little off to see you all on a Tuesday, not a Wednesday. Like, oh my goodness. Yes, but we're so glad each of you are here. For this next period of our meeting today, we would like to pass the proverbial mic to our colleagues over at Central California Environmental Justice Network in Tree Fresno. First, we would love to hear an update specifically around from Tree Fresno about the urban greening and vegetative barriers piece, but specifically the vegetative barriers component or measure specifically. And so Mona, we would invite you to share at this time whenever you are ready.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. So I'm going to get started here. Just a little recap. I know everybody on this call knows where this is coming from, but Tree Fresno was awarded beginning in March 2 $1 million grants, one for urban greening and one for vegetative barriers. So tonight I would like to give the vegetative barrier update. And then, as you said, our partners at CCEJN are planning to give the urban greening update. So the update for vegetative barriers, this project is a little slower moving than urban greening, particularly because it involves a larger scale project to begin with the city of Fresno. And it's not to say that city of Fresno is slow, but because of where we are building this particular vegetative barrier, so sort of pollution control with trees along Golden State Boulevard, it's going to take a lot of planning and permitting. So I would like to give the highlights of what has happened in the last few months. Beginning July 11th, Tree Fresno met with the City of Fresno Public Works team, including Director Scott Mosier, to discuss vegetative barriers for AB 617. We had members of irrigation, obviously public works, public utilities, in discussion of how we go about implementing a project that involves both the planting of trees, the positioning of trees, irrigation, and then long-term maintenance and care of those trees so that they can serve as a vegetative barrier along Golden State Boulevard. So July 11th really started our work together, launched our work together. On July 19th, we met with Tree Fresno's landscape architect. Her name is Gabriella Golick. So she puts together both the tree plans and the irrigation specifications, the irrigation plans for these vegetative barrier and urban greening projects. We invited her to an on-site meeting which took place on August 15th. And again, we had Tree Fresno. I was there along with the landscape architect and the City of Fresno's Public Works team. We were on site at Golden State Boulevard so that we could visualize the building of this large vegetative barrier along the roadway. So it is located in a median. One of the first differences between our initial proposal, our accepted proposal, and this plan that is coming is that the original location was slightly north of the location where we are building the vegetative barrier because of the building of high-speed rail in that area. So obviously we don't want to interfere or to create something that will later be destroyed. So the City of Fresno chose an area that's just north, or I'm sorry, just south of the original positioning, which the Community Steering Committee will see in the tree plan that is forthcoming. And that is coming from our landscape architect in the near future. So we are able to send that on to Valley Air for distribution, even public, to be able to see that for public comment. But we are working with that plan with the City of Fresno so that we are all on the same page when it comes to tree species, irrigation hookups, electrical hookups, all of these items. So that August 15th meeting was, it was instrumental on creating the plans for Golden State between East and Orange. And then August 30th, I worked with the landscape architect to begin the design of those tree plans. And as I said before, they are forthcoming. So as soon as we have them, we will share them with those who are interested. And I think it's wise to come back to the steering committee so that they can see the actual location of that vegetative barrier, since it's slightly removed from the approved project. And so that's all I've got for vegetative barriers. It's a little bit shorter than what we have for urban greening.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mona. We really appreciate all of this really helpful information. And it sounds like, wow, it sounds like July was a bumping month. Things were happening. So thank you so much for providing this info for us.
Thank you. We're thrilled about the project. And as you know, this is the beginning of, there will probably be multiple location of vegetative barriers, but this is the biggie on Golden State Boulevard, and it will be transformational in that area. And we are really thrilled to have the support of the City of Fresno on this project from the get-go. And that makes all the difference in the world for the timeline that we're dealing with over 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona. Thank you, Tree Fresno. At this time, would love to pass again this proverbial mic over to our colleagues with CCEJN. And so Naomi, would you be available at this time to provide our update around urban greening and introduce someone to us?
Looks like she's still trying to connect.
No problem. I'm wondering then if, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, this is Amy. I was wondering if it's Julio who's giving the update. Oh, there she is.
Okay, I am here, Nayamin, and so it's going to be tag team, and I apologize, had to cover a focus group since our meeting changed, but we're going to try to do our best. So we're really happy. As you know, we're the partner with Tree Fresno implementing the urban greening component of all the work that we have been doing. And one of the main things we would like to say is that we are happy to have an urban greening coordinator, Julio Lopez, who will be sharing with you more about our work. But one of the very exciting things that we're going to be doing with urban greening is a component that is called Adopt a Tree or Adopte un Árbol. I'm not sure if Julio will be able to share his slides with you that he prepared in English and Spanish. But, basically, all this time we have been planning how to roll over this component of Adopt a Tree. Our idea and our plan is to start planting in October, and our planting season will go all the way to April. So these summer months was, we hired Julio, we were planning, we met with two of our first community partners that we approached, Friends of Calowa and also Familias en Acción. Both of their organizations have a seat at the CSC, so we were delighted to continue this partnership. So what is Adopt a Tree? I hope, Julio, are you on the meeting so you can take over, or should I continue?
Yes, I'm ready. And if you allow me to share the screen, I'll go ahead and start on that presentation. Good evening, everybody. Buenas tardes.
Gracias. So with you, I'll pass it over to Julio Lopez. As I said, he just joined our team as the urban greening coordinator and already start meeting people like Lilia and her group. We are planning a meeting with Friends of Calowa. He was not yet on board there when Mona and I met with Friends of Calowa, but we would like to describe to you how the Adopt a Tree component will work. So take it away, Julio.
Thank you. Let me see here. I'm having some technical issues. If I can get some help from some of you. I'm trying to share a screen here and I'm not seeing my file here. Let me see here. Give me a minute here.
No problem.
Is screen shared a function that is active?
Hi, Julio.
Hello,
This is Amy. Yeah, you should be able to share, Julio. So if you have your document open, you want to go ahead and make sure that that's open. And then on the bottom of your Zoom link, there should be a toolbar where you can click on share screen. There we go.
All right. Is that it there?
Yes, it
Can you
is.
see it? Okay,
can.
muy buenas
Perfecto.
tardes. Okay, muy buenas tardes. Thank you for all your help. Like Nayamin said, thank you, Nayamin. My name is Julio Lopez and I'm the new tree program coordinator for CCJN. I'm going to give you some information. Vamos a empezar con adoptar un árbol. Vamos a hacer la presentación en inglés y en español. I'm going to start in Spanish and then the slides will transition to English. So bear with me, I'll go ahead and start. So el programa se llama Adopta un Árbol, es un proyecto para hacer un Fresno más verde, es un proyecto de la Red de Justicia Ambiental del Centro de California, CSEGN, y Tree Fresno, con financiamiento del Distrito del Aire del Valle de San Joaquín del programa AB 617. So Adopt a Tree is a Greening Fresno project. This is a project with the Central California Environmental Justice Network, CCEJN, and Tree Fresno with funding from the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Project, AB 617 program. Okay, so los padres adoptivos del árbol recibirán asistencia técnica para identificar la mejor ubicación
Julio.
para plantar su árbol. Yes.
Julio, I'm so
Yes,
sorry
ma'am.
to interrupt. I
Yes.
think, so with the way our interpretation works,
Yes.
you have to be in a specific channel, but the way it works, I think, is you have to speak one language. So either,
Okay, no problem. So I will speak in Spanish and then it will be translated to English.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Liz. Los padres adoptivos del árbol recibirán asistencia técnica para identificar la mejor ubicación para plantar su árbol, incluyendo llamar al 811 y a la ciudad de Fresno y un kit de adopción, un árbol y estaca, un sistema de riesgo, le dicen tree diaper, un panal para el árbol, bolsas de composta, paquete de fertilizantes, instrucciones ilustradas paso a paso de cómo plantar árboles correctamente, un libro de registro de riego y plan de mantenimiento del árbol y un certificado de adopción. ¿Cómo solicitar su árbol? Complete un formulario de interés de adopción, ya sea por teléfono, internet o en persona durante eventos comunitarios. Los formularios estarán disponibles en todos los eventos comunitarios y hoy llamándonos a la oficina de CSEGN al 559-939-1977. Tree Fresno
Julio,
y CC.
Julio, las intérpretes están pidiendo si puedes hablar más despacio, por favor, porque no
Ok,
te alcanzan a seguir.
no hay problema. Vamos a continuar con la número 2. Tree Fresno y CSEGN revisarán los formularios para garantizar la salud y la supervivencia del árbol, teniendo en cuenta que el sitio donde se implantará el árbol sea el ideal. CSEGN se comunicará con las personas interesadas para definir la ubicación donde se plantará el árbol y coordinará la plantación. Los residentes en la área AB 617 pueden adoptar un árbol tolerante a la sequía de 5 galones y ayudar a aumentar el número de árboles en su comunidad. Los árboles beneficiarán cada vecindario, ofrecen muchos beneficios físicos, reducen la temperatura y limpian el aire. Hacen que nuestra comunidad sea más vibrante, crean conexiones entre vecinos. AB 617 y la lucha contra las injusticias ambientales en el sur centro de Fresno. La Red de Justicia Ambiental California Central, CSEGN. Nuestra visión CSEGN acabará con el racismo ambiental, logrará justicia económica y equidad en salud a través de soluciones regionales sostenibles. Nuestra misión, empoderar a nuestras comunidades y asegurar el futuro de nuestros niños, eliminando los impactos ambientales negativos en las comunidades de bajos ingresos y de color en el Valle Central. El AB 6117 gana. Millones de dólares fueron aprobados para financiar proyectos de ecologización urbana en el centro sur de Fresno. Se realizará un estudio de redirección de camiones con una evaluación de salud en el sur de Fresno. La comunidad ahora tiene acceso a monitores del aire adicionales para comprender la calidad del aire local. Las escuelas recibirán sistemas de filtración mejorados, 15 autobuses eléctricos para escuelas locales. Mayor participación de la comunidad en los procesos de toma de decisiones, diseño de soluciones locales a problemas de calidad del aire.
Julio,
Dígame.
No, nada más quería decir que el overview que estás dando ahorita de AB617 sí es muy bueno y lo hemos estado presentando con la comunidad, pero este es el comité directivo de AB617, así que ya es, ya lo saben. Entonces quisiera también no tomar mucho tiempo de la agenda porque hay una agenda completa que se tiene que continuar. Entonces tal vez podemos concluir la presentación y nada más hacer una pausa para preguntar si alguno de los asistentes o personas del Distrito del Aire o de los miembros del comité AB617, si tienen alguna pregunta sobre este componente de adoptar un árbol.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and pause and ask if there's any questions. We don't want to take up the remainder of the time of the agenda. So I've been instructed by the director to go ahead and pause for a minute. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. If there's any suggestions or any other items you'd like to bring up, I'd be happy to answer those questions for you. I'll go ahead and pause the share.
Thank you so much, Julio. I see that we have a hand raised. Isabel, would you like to share your question with our group?
Sí, yo tengo una pregunta. En esos proyectos, ¿se pueden plantar árboles como en las paradas de los autobuses donde hay mucho calor? En esos tiempos de calor hay muchas paradas donde no hay nada de sombra. ¿Todo eso se puede hacer o no?
I can take a stab at this question. Is that okay if I speak in English or Spanish? I don't know if I'm in the phone, what would be the preferred language?
I think either is good.
Okay, so then I'll speak Spanish. Isabel, sí vamos a también, este componente que explicó Julio el día de hoy es adoptar un árbol. Eso se va a enfocar en las personas que quieren adoptar un árbol para plantar en sus en sus domicilios, en sus propiedades. Hay otro componente que no lo hemos explicado el día de hoy, pero que en la siguiente oportunidad que nos permitan dar otra actualización, vamos a hablar del otro componente, que es la plantación de árboles en lugares públicos. Y esos lugares públicos pueden incluir en las calles, pueden incluir, pues lo de las paradas es por eso que no lo hemos dicho como una opción, porque tenemos que trabajar con la ciudad, tenemos que trabajar con los diferentes departamentos, porque no va a ser nada más donde nosotros sugiramos, es también ver las posibilidades de que en la calle, en esas calles o en esas paradas, exista lo que se necesita para plantar el árbol, que haya como las jardineras, que haya manera de regar el árbol, porque queremos que sobreviva. Entonces, sabemos que es un interés de la comunidad, estamos trabajando en desarrollar ese componente, pero como le digo, va a depender de cómo colaboremos con la ciudad, o en el caso de Málaga y Calogua, con el condado, para poder hacer esa decisión en qué calles, en qué lugares públicos sí se pueden plantar estos árboles.
Ok, gracias, Nayamin.
A usted, Isabel.
Thank you so much, Naomi, for this incredible response, thoughtful response. Isabel, does that speak to your question, or did you have another question? I see your hand is still raised.
No, eso era todo. Gracias.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that really great question. I also see Lilia, your hand is raised.
Así es, buenas tardes a todos, compañeros. Antes que todo quiero agradecer a Nayamin y a Julio por juntarse, sentarnos un ratito, platicar sobre los proyectos que se quedaron atrasados. Estoy muy contenta y muy agradecida por este nuevo inicio que vamos a hacer para poder ayudar a las familias que se quedaron pendientes en el pasado con plantar los árboles. Ya le pasamos una lista a Julio, incluso la persona que me está asistiendo, ya tenemos una lista que estaba en espera que esperemos que pronto se planten esos árboles. Y voy a responder también a la pregunta de Isabel. Isabel, créeme que como nosotros sabemos, los que vivimos aquí en Fresno, sabemos el impacto que tuvieron apenas hace como un par de semanas los estudiantes de Roosevelt. Creo que si tuviéramos esos árboles cerca de esas paradas de autobuses, no hubiera pasado tal trágico accidente donde fueron atropellados tantos niños. Y no digo que los árboles, aparte de que nos sirvan para sombra, también nos sirvan para proteger a nuestros estudiantes en dado caso que surja otro accidente similar, porque esos, aparte de que son árboles con sombra, también pueden proteger de un accidente en caso de que sea una parada de bus. Y voy a contestar también la pregunta de Araceli. Sí, Araceli, la pregunta está muy bien. Los árboles están plantando, los vamos a plantar primeramente Dios adentro de las casas, por eso es que adopta un árbol. Adoptar el árbol es también hacer responsables a los residentes de adentro de sus casas y hablar con la ciudad para que se planten afuera de las casas. Es un proyecto que me encantó y creo que Familias en Acción estamos encantados de participar en este proyecto porque nuestra área, desafortunadamente, el sureste de Fresno no tienen parques, no tenemos un parque, entonces caminar bajo sombra será lo más ideal por el momento hasta que la ciudad de Fresno implemente un terreno para poder tener un parque cercano para nosotros, para poder descansar una tarde tranquila abajo de la sombra, mientras tenemos que plantar los árboles para poder trabajar. Así es que nuevamente, gracias Nayami por pensar en Familias en Acción, gracias Julio por ponerte en contacto con nosotros y seguir trabajando con ustedes, que eso es lo que nos encanta a nosotros, embellecer nuestras comunidades y cuidar el medio ambiente, que es lo mejor. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Lilia.
Thank you so much, Lilia. Yes, well, at this time, I would love to ask if there are any other questions. And thank you so much, CCEJ and team, for Naimeen and Julio for providing this really incredible, helpful information for us. And thank you again earlier, Mona, for the update you provide from Tree Fresno as well. I don't see any hands raised or anything in the chat. So at this time, I'm going to transition back to Liz for our next agenda item.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm happy to transition us to the next agenda item, which is our SERP incentive measure discussion. So for this item, we will be discussing some updates and recent progress on 2 of your SERP incentive measures. First, we'll start with updates regarding the passenger vehicle repair and replacement program. And then we will transition and hear some updates regarding the heavy-duty truck replacement measure and some follow-up from the discussions that have been happening since the last CSC meeting. Before we jump into this item, just going to provide some brief framing for everybody. As I mentioned, we will first hear those updates about the passenger vehicle repair and replacement program. Have some time, I believe, to open it up for feedback and discussion from the CSC and really try to answer any questions that come up. Again, the goal for these items are for the CSC to get clarity. And so we will first start with that and then transition to the separate heavy-duty truck replacement measure. And at that point, we will invite our co-host, Bill, who again has a lot of experience with heavy-duty trucks in your community. So we'll invite Bill to provide the CSC with some brief summary of some of the conversations that he's been having, important points that he's raised with the Air District to help prepare for this meeting and move some things forward. And so after Bill will share, we'll have the Air District begin with updates about the heavy-duty truck replacement, potentially adding a new pathway to the existing measure. And again, just want to make it clear for everyone that we do not need to come to a consensus tonight, especially recognizing all the discussion that's been had and the questions. So really, again, want to ensure that the CSC will come out of tonight's meeting with clarity on these recent updates. And so we really encourage you all to think critically about the information presented, really try to understand, and please don't be afraid to ask any questions, share your thoughts, because this is definitely the space for that. And so with that, I will move us along to the passenger vehicle repair and replacement discussion. And I will pass it to the Air District and Ryan to get us started.
Yeah. Thanks, Liz. And just really wanted to thank all the presenters on both the vegetative barrier and the urban greening. Those are great updates, and really excited for those developments, and appreciate everybody that's going to be participating in that. I look forward to, hopefully there's opportunities where, we can, as CSC members and Air District people can, participate in some of those events in the future. I've been involved in tree planting events that Tree Fresno has done in the past in the community, and they're always great turnouts and really engaging, and it's great to get to know people that are working on those projects. So I'm going to share my screen now. Assuming everybody can see that. Looking good. I see thumbs up. That's always great. Let's see. I'm sorry. So Liz kind of introduced it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, and it's going to be kind of more brief. What we were hoping to do is have a more fuller discussion of this. So this is really to tee up the topic of the passenger vehicle repair and replace program that is in the community emissions reduction program, and hopefully bring one of the people that would look to partner on doing this work, that has been doing it, has been partnering with the district on the kind of the valley-wide program. But there are some key differences that we're going to discuss, and then definitely want feedback from the steering committee. Probably if looking to bring this back at next month's meeting and get more input on the specifics on how to run the recommendations on running the program. So just kind of as a reminder to everybody, we discussed this, and it's last year we discussed this topic with the community steering committee. Just as a reminder, because this wasn't a pre-approved program, we did need to develop an incentive project plan that was shared with the community steering committee. That project plan was then sent to CARB. I'm happy to report that CARB did approve that program just recently. The next step is to take it to our board for to be able to open up that program. And what it does is it does two things. There's a repair measure, which would allow people to go to partner smog and automotive repair facilities to get their vehicle tested. And if it were to fail, they would get a voucher for repairs to be performed on that vehicle. And so when we went through the process of allocating or giving specific funding to the different measures, the steering committee supported allocating $1 million towards that. And then the other one was a replace measure. And this is where people, if they have a car older than 2007, would qualify to have their vehicle, to get funding to replace their vehicle, either with a new or with a used plug-in hybrid type of vehicle or battery electric vehicle. So we're planning to take this to our board for their approval later this week, and next week really looking forward to getting together with you. And like I said, the organization that we work with is called Valley Can. They're the ones that hopefully many of you have already seen these types of events when it comes to the vehicle repair programs. We've done a lot of in-person events where these have been held at, for example, the Fresno Fairgrounds and other places throughout Fresno. And this is where people would bring their vehicles. They would they have people that have smog testing equipment, and they will test the vehicle to see if it would pass a smog test. And if it didn't, then they would receive a voucher to take to any of a number of partner repair shops and smog shops that they honor those, and so they would be able to get repairs at those places. So some of the questions that we want people to be thinking about when we bring this back next month. There's kind of two different processes that you can go through vehicle repair. With COVID, or let me say, prior to COVID, all of these events were done in person. And so, there would be an event, and they would set up, and people would bring their cars and they would do it. When COVID happened, it really forced us to consider alternative options. It was a very good program. It benefited a lot of underserved and under-resourced communities throughout the valley. And so we looked for ways to transition this program to continue to benefit getting emission reductions in those communities. And so they developed what was called the direct. They were able to directly apply. And so what they would do is we had a listing of smog repair and automotive repair shops that would do the smog testing and would provide a voucher directly without having to go to an in-person event. And so that could be one of the options. And so what we want to hear from the steering committee is that the option that they would look for, or would they look to, would there still be desire to have it like an in-person one, for example? In regards to the vehicle replace, Valley Can holds events in different communities. They're typically very informal. A lot of times they do it. It's at restaurants and other places, and they would set up with computers and other things and help people go through the process of seeing whether their vehicle is eligible, if it is eligible, kind of walking them through options, and and at the same time, there's food and other things for community members. And so some of the feedback that we want people to think about is, where would it be most beneficial to have these meetings, and what days would be best, what times would be the best. So, kind of think about that, maybe talk with your friends and your neighbors about that, and, bring all that information back to that discussion next month. So really excited to get this program going. It took a long time to work with CARB to get this program plan approved. And, when we initially submitted it, there was definitely some supply chain issues and a lack of availability of these types of vehicles. But, things have definitely opened up quite a bit, and now there are more of these vehicles available. And so want to discuss that more with all of you. So, like I said, sorry to have misinformed Liz a little bit on kind of what we're looking for tonight. Really was just to kind of make sure that everybody stays informed on where we are with that very important measure that the community is very interested in. Just share our excitement for working with CARB to get that approved, and hopefully get that approved on later this week, and then next month let's do it. Let's get it moving and start planning it out, and hopefully help the community members transition to plug-in hybrid or battery electric vehicles, and in a manner that they can. And so at this point, I think I would turn it over to Bill to open up the conversation about heavy-duty truck measure, and why this is important, and how it can benefit the community.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Just a brief review of the subcommittee meeting. There was a discussion, and basically correct me, Ryan, if I'm incorrect, but the proposal was to allocate a considerable amount of money to OK Produce for their efforts to convert more of their fleet to electric trucks. And one part of that measure that was promoted to them, I think that would be very valuable to CARB if they would consider the part where they would be able to keep their old truck, or anybody would. In other words, I think that initially, to get early adopters, whether it's OK Produce or anyone, the technology is so new and so unproven that I don't know of anybody that would, or very few that would actually give up their truck and buy a $300,000 electric truck that's not proven. There's still there's manufacturers like, for example, Nikola is a truck manufacturer that's producing battery operated trucks, and they've had to recall several hundred of the ones that they've had out in the field because they've had 4 or 5 of them catch on fire parked in their plant. So there's some issues that need to be worked out. And so if the companies were allowed to keep their old trucks in case like the new truck, had to go back, or maybe there's going to be problems with the infrastructure is really lacking right now for truck charging. And I feel like that one thing that we could do is, it's not in this, but just to think about, to discuss at a future meeting would, if we were to develop a SERP that would encourage more infrastructure for truck recharging, starting in 3 months, any fleet that has 50 trucks or more, or even if they only have 1 truck, but their annual sales go over 50 million, they're going to have to comply with the January 2024 start converting their fleet to electric trucks. I know 50 million sounds like a lot, but for example, in my business, a load of fuel is $40,000 to $50,000 now with the price. It doesn't take a lot of loads, to in a year's time, where I'm sure I will have to qualify for that fleet program. And so in other words, that we do need to really focus on getting infrastructure, because right now I've been trying for about 5 years to get my truck stop converted over to hydrogen and compressed natural gas and electric recharging. And once you start the process, it's you really all you get is setbacks once the agencies find out you're going in for permits. They come out of the woodwork wanting various setbacks, and they want you to donate easements to them, and then that setbacks where you're planning to do this or that. So another thing that would be really advantageous, if the local agency and CARB could work together to create a task force to work with companies that are trying to prepare to go to electric trucks or any of the other zero emission technologies, to help guide us through the process, because it's never happened in the history before where we've had to go to a totally different technology. Before, in the last 100 years or more, if you bought a diesel truck, well, you could find somewhere to fuel it. Well, if you had an electric truck now, you're very limited where you could fuel it. And also on top of that, I've been checking where there's some manufacturers that won't even let you order electric truck if you don't have the infrastructure to support that truck once you get it. Because I think what's happened is people don't realize that when you contact PG&E, it could take 2 or 3 years for them to bring in the power necessary to charge that truck. So the manufacturers have had issues where they provide the truck to the dealer, and then the customer doesn't take the truck, so they get stuck with a truck because you're not able to get infrastructure. So if we can improve and maybe develop a different SERP or add it to an existing SERP to focus on infrastructure, at least for public places. For example, there's like a couple truck stops on Jensen Avenue. There's a couple on Central and 99. I think there's one on Chestnut. If all of those places, existing places, were contacted to encourage them to get electric charging and pay 100% of it, because right now, even if you were in Merced and you had an electric truck, you might be hesitant to drive it to Fresno back, depending on how big a battery storage you have and so forth. Whereas if you had a location where you could get recharged to go back, I think that would ease the conscience of a lot of companies to where they would start initially buying electric trucks or hydrogen or whatever. So anyway, and then back to the original SERP, I got the feeling at the subcommittee meeting that some of the participants weren't real sure about giving a real large amount of money to OK Produce. Now, I looked it up online, and it's phenomenal the job they've done in creating an atmosphere where they can handle charging their own trucks. But one thing that hasn't been brought up, which I'll bring up, which it's really good for the environment, but they have the ability where they have almost 100% solar capability available to charge the trucks. Well, that takes up an enormous amount of room, which I don't know offhand any trucking company that I'm familiar with would have the space to even put that many solar panels. So you're asking, maybe you're thinking, why are you talking about that, Bill? Well, for example, my understanding and reading online, they have or are planning to have enough solar capacity to charge 36 of their trucks. Okay, well, so what, Bill? Well, 36 trucks, if you use 50 gallons of fuel a day, which is probably about average, at $6 a gallon, that's $300 a day. Okay, take the $300 a day times 12 months, that's $109,500. So if you have 36 trucks in 1 year, that's nearly $4 million you've saved by using the solar to charge the trucks. Now, this is really good as far as this is what CARB has said all along, that once companies get changed over to electric, that they're going to save money in the long run, particularly if they have solar available. But the reward that OK Produce is getting is nearly a $4 million a year reward, which I don't know of any other companies in the Fresno area that would have that ability. So back to I would be interested in seeing if there would be, if it was publicized, companies in the AB 617 area, they could be small companies, that could utilize the funding to help them, transition their fleet, or maybe they only have 2 trucks or whatever, but start getting into this electric program so that they could share some of the rewards. And also at the same time, as we get trucks out there and through trial and error, we're going to work the bugs out of them so that more people are going to be, more at ease about ordering them.
Hey, Bill.
Yes, sir.
Just a couple of things. Just want to make sure that everybody's clear. In the subcommittee, the main thing was just talking about as you discussed, the project plan would be to open up make changes to the existing program to try to get more interest. The only reason we were talking about OK Produce was because when we had shared this information with other steering committees, who were also interested in possibly pursuing different options, some of the feedback was, well, are there any companies that are interested or able? And it's not, that we were looking to design a program to work for OK Produce. It was just OK Produce was an example of a company that had shown interest and was able to, participate or possibly participate in the program. And so we were trying to use that as like an example of, okay, there is a possibility we could do this, and under the timelines that we were looking at. And so, really to highlight the benefits of possibly looking to make the change to this program. And so I know we're probably losing a lot of the people that weren't at the steering committee or the subcommittee. And so maybe this would be a good time to just kind of go through the slides, to get them caught up with kind of where some of the conversation that you're sharing or some of the information that you're sharing with them, so that they're fully up to speed on everything and can hopefully be able to participate more.
Yeah, I think maybe if I recall from the subcommittee meeting, there was somebody, I don't know who it was, for example, that said, as an example, he had estimates for three trucks that he would order, like right now, for example. If the trucks were available, if they're available to buy, I know, for example, I could take 6 of them, but I don't know that they're available in the configuration, just because I've got to start changing over my fleet in 3 months, basically.
Yeah.
So I think if this program was open to the community, to anybody or any company that uses the community, maybe they don't live in the community, but they do business, I think you might get more applicants than you think, because
Yeah.
I
Great.
have at least $100 a day, and have them go to the port.
Bill.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, I think this might be a good transition to the slides that you were talking about, Ryan. I think it would be helpful to have that context for the bigger group. And I also want to, while you're transitioning, draw some attention to the comments in the chat. So we had one from Lilia saying only those who have high resources can achieve that dream of buying an electric truck. The value is too much. They cost more than $100,000, and Familia Sin Acción wanted to buy one, but with that cost, we will have to continue pulling the trailer that was donated to us by the residents. Yeah, thank you for sharing that experience, Lilia. And then a comment from Dr. Curry. As I recall, the issue in the subcommittee was continuing to provide additional incentives while lessening the requirements and further delaying the transition away from reducing emissions. And thank you for bringing that point and clarity. And one last comment, Isabel is in agreement with Bill. And that was all in the chat, but maybe Ryan can go through some of the slides.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Liz. So just kind of some background for the community steering committee members. The measure that is currently in the community emissions reduction program right now replaces heavy duty trucks with zero emission trucks at businesses located within the boundary, that operate within the boundary, and the funding amount that was dedicated to it was $7.5 million. It allows businesses that operate within the boundary to expand their fleets by purchasing new zero emission trucks without a requirement to scrap the existing compliant vehicles. And it would provide increased funding amount per vehicle for the replacement. Now, the requirements for the trips, there would be strict requirements in any agreement that would show that they operate within the boundary and that there's emissions being reduced through their use in the boundary. So some of the feedback that we got from the community steering committees, and Bill has touched on a lot of this. It's like the availability and the funding for charging infrastructure. Currently, there is funding available for electric vehicle charging infrastructure, and electric truck technology is geared towards local hauls and in-town deliveries. For a lot of them, there are some trucks that get more mileage that can go further. All of those vehicles would qualify under the proposal and even under the existing one. But for these trucks to go further and further, that is where we are going to have to continue to focus on public infrastructure. And it's I don't think there's any secret that Governor Newsom has made this one of the top priorities for his administration, is finding ways to expand the public infrastructure, especially in light of the regulations that the California Air Resources Board had put forth, that Bill was also talking about, that requires fleets to begin those transitions. And so it can't be at the cost of people not being able to run businesses, and for goods and materials to be able not being able to be shipped. So infrastructure is vital. Currently, what we're seeing right now in regards to what is the cost for mainly focusing on Class 8, which is the biggest heavy duty trucks. Those are ranging from $450,000 to $500,000 for one of those. The smaller ones, which also qualify, can be anywhere from down to a couple $100,000. So kind of like I talked about before, the $7.5 million is the available funding in the community emission reduction program. The new project plan would not change the original funding. It would just change the requirements. And so currently we pointed to there's a statewide program called the Carl Moyer program, which is what a lot of the diesel truck replacement is required to follow. However, with AB 617 and the community identified projects, there's allowances to create new programs and explore different things. It's one of the primary focus of AB 617 is it allows for more innovation and to develop and create programs that will work specifically for certain areas and certain communities. Understanding that not all the programs that currently exist are accessible for people within these underserved, under-resourced communities. So what we base this off of is the San Diego Air Pollution Control District also has an AB 617 community. It's called the Portside community near the San Diego ports. And their top priority was heavy duty trucks and replacing those. And they were also experiencing challenges getting people to participate in the kind of general program where I replace a truck, I get a truck, and that's how the program worked. And for all the reasons that we talked about with this newer technology and the concerns that we've heard from owners and operators of trucking fleets, that to possibly lose a vehicle for an extended amount of time could be disastrous for their operations. And so it makes them very hesitant to make that transition currently. And so they went through a process of submitting a community identified project plan that allows them to spend community air protection incentive funds to replace vehicles, or not, I shouldn't say replace, allows operators to purchase electric vehicles and not scrap an older vehicle. At the same time, there are requirements in the agreements that they have to report out, and how much the vehicles are being used, how many miles they're traveling, how many trips they're taking, and also with that older vehicle, kind of those same requirements, basically to show that there's a drop in emissions from the lessening of the use of one vehicle and the use of the electric vehicle. So there's a couple of different thoughts, and I don't know if this decision will get made today, but there's a couple different opportunities. So what we're looking for is just like from the steering committee, is this something that you want us to even consider, or does the community just want us to stay with the program as it is, and that anybody that wanted to be eligible for this funding would have to scrap old trucks, or do we want to find a way that would allow maybe some smaller owner operators to be able to explore this, without the concern of not being able to satisfy contracts and agreements. If their new electric truck were to break down for any extended period of time. And so those were the general thoughts and topics, and wanted to hear from the CSC. And at this time I'll stop sharing and look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ryan. And so I'm hearing the ask of the CSC is to, at maybe not tonight's meeting, but at a future meeting, decide on if you agree with the potential change to that project plan.
Yeah.
And that change would be, they would no longer have to scrap, but also want to acknowledge Dr. Curry's comment about.
There was two more things I should have brought up, Liz, just.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Before the conversation. We had made a commitment out of the subcommittee, which was to provide a draft project plan. And so we're still working on that. And we're looking to share that out with CSC members. And hopefully that would address some of the concerns that Dr. Curry and others have brought up. It's like, yes, we definitely don't want a program where, we give a new vehicle to someone and then they continue to drive the old vehicle, and now they, have this other one in addition to that. That's not the goal. It's to get a decrease in the number of trips and miles driven by diesel vehicles, and we need to show that through agreements. And so that would be one of the things. The other thing is taking all the feedback that we've gotten, questions that we've gotten, and trying to put together a frequently asked questions document that we would also provide to the steering committees to help them, understand what this means and why we're even discussing it, why we're posing it to the steering committee for consideration. And so yeah, we're looking to get that out to the steering committee very soon.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. And I see we have a hand from Natalie. Please share.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to provide just my feedback, just going off what Ryan asked. Like, I feel comfortable like giving companies that option where they don't have to scrap, but I do think at a certain point there has to be like a scrappage like limit. Like after 2 years, 3 years, like you have to scrap like your diesel truck, in order to continue using these electric vehicles. And then again, I do want to just highlight just prioritizing like small owner operators in the area. I know OK Produce is like a big operator, but I feel like at the end of the day, like these owner operators are gonna have to transition as well. So I think getting them in early as we can, I think is also important.
Thanks, Natalie.
Yeah, thank you. And Bill, go ahead.
One comment I might just raise that may help some of the people be a little more at ease. The program that's going into effect next year, every truck that you own is no longer being able to be used when it reaches 800,000 miles or it's 13 years old. So every truck that exists has a life limit on it. And I think that's going to be problematic, especially for your owner operators and so forth, because their truck, in the past, when you started out and you started with one truck and you had 2 or 3, 4, whatever, at the end of the day, you had something to sell, whether, you would expand, but the new program doesn't allow that. So if nothing else were to happen, if your truck that you're using, once it reaches 800,000 miles, you can no longer use it in California, which I don't quite understand when, you know, the ratings on the new engines and everything, you know, they go 1.2 million miles without any overhaul or whatever, but that's the way the program is. That's the law. So the most it's going to go is 800,000 miles or like 13 years. So that would take care of, you know, hopefully make some people more at ease with, you know, somebody using a truck, you know, forever. And I think that now that it makes more, it's a lot clearer as far as if this program is going to be available to everybody and not just for OK Produce. That makes much more sense. And is there a time limit, Ryan, on how soon, you know, in other words, I know OK Produce, it took them 3 years to get those 10 trucks. You know, is there if you were approved or applied for the program and there was a delay on getting the truck, would there be a problem there, or have you thought about that at this point?
Problem in which regard, Bill?
I'm sorry, what?
I said a problem in like what in what term do you mean a problem?
In other words,
Timing-wise?
when you apply for the program, you know, do you have to receive the truck within so many months, or if it takes, you know, the manufacturer, you know, a year or two to supply that truck?
Yeah, that's a good point, Bill. You know, one of the things, like with the funding that we have, there are timelines for spending it, and when it comes to the state, they consider the actual purchasing of it. It's not like when you get under a contract that money is then quote unquote spent. The state actually expects you to like actually pay it out. So that is something that we are very aware of, especially with the delays in the delivery of a lot of these pieces of equipment. You know, as you know, we've talked about in the past, it can take up to a year for some of these to possibly be delivered. There are some I know that are more available than others, like when it comes to types of the electric trucks. But yeah, there's that potential delay. So, you know, we are operating under a couple different timelines. One is we're trying to, you know, if the community steering committee is supportive of this, we would submit a project plan. That starts the process of us having a back and forth with CARB to hopefully get it approved. You know, kind of following the wishes of the recommendations of the community steering committee. Hopefully that CARB would be then, because they've already approved one, hopefully that wouldn't be a really, really long process. But like, we can't commit to how long it may take to get that done. Only once that's done, then we would be able to open up a program, you know, put it out there to people, see who we get interested in, and you know, move forward with you know, people that are able to participate in it. But yeah, then there's the timeline for delivery that we know is also going to be an issue. So yeah, we're definitely communicating a lot of these challenges. We're in constant communication with California Air Resources Board and other air districts who are also experiencing these same things to look to make sure that the communities that have these measures in their community emissions reduction program, that we are going to be able to realize them and implement them fully. So, but you know, if there's any changes and if you know, if we have concerns, you know, we're not going to keep it to ourselves. We're going to bring it back to the community steering committees, and we're going to look to agendize it and have it discussed here with all of you. So you're going to stay completely up to date with where we are with all of this.
I was just bringing it up because if you ordered a truck and then you ran out of time before you got it, you know, it could be a problem for whoever ordered it, you know, if they didn't get any help with paying for it at that point. So hopefully they'll be very generous with how much time that CARB or whoever's giving you the money allows you to take delivery of it.
You know, if it is approved and, you know, by CARB and we're able to open it up, we're going to get a much better sense of, what some of the delivery timeframes are going to be. We're going to hear, like, when we get people under contract, they're going to know from those manufacturers. And so then we're going to be armed with like real information, real data to take to, CARB and others to if there is any timing issues or any challenges, we're going to be able to take that to them and, provide them those real world experiences. And, we definitely hope that they'd be open and willing to, make adjustments in order to account for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for those great questions and insights. And just want to open it up again to see, especially from the CSC members that we haven't heard from yet tonight. How is this landing for you? Do you have any questions still? This was a lot of information, so if you have any questions at all, please don't be afraid to ask. If anyone has any feedback that they would like to share, would love to hear that. So I'll pause and see if anyone would like to share.
Now, if anybody has any questions for me, I'll try to answer them if I can.
As folks are thinking, I guess a question is, do you feel like you have all of the information that you need to come to our next CSC meeting ready to make a decision on this, whether or not to change the project plan? Yeah, Natalie, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a comment. Just if we can be given like the project work plan so that we have at least like 30 days to review it and make those comments by the next meeting.
I don't know if I can commit to 30 days, Natalie, but I hope to get it out by next week. So they're not typically, hopefully too long. They're usually, probably maybe 10 pages long.
Yeah, that's a great point though about the timeline for those materials. I think they'll be an important part of the CSC's decision-making process. Do you have an idea, Ryan, of what day that folks could expect to receive that so they can start planning?
By the end of next week.
Yeah. Okay. So we will record that in our action items and folks can expect to receive the draft project plan. And I heard also, Ryan, you were offering to draft an FAQ. Is that still right? Yeah. Okay.
And we may split up, if one's done earlier, we may try to get that out earlier and or vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thank you. Any other thoughts, questions, comments?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think getting the documents to you and, having that to look at will definitely help.
Yeah, Lilia, go ahead.
Es comentario nada más. Nuevamente, quiero agradecer al equipo de ustedes, de ABC 17, por acompañarnos este viernes pasado. Yo pienso que tuvieron bastante participación en la escuela Wincho, y así como están involucrando los filtros de aire para las comunidades, yo pienso que eso es muy importante, saber que ya cuenta con esos filtros en todas las comunidades y que se estén dando a saber en las escuelas. Entonces, gracias nuevamente a Marisela y a esta Ana y al equipo que vino a compartir con nosotros en la experiencia más que nada para cuidar el medio ambiente y cómo podemos purificar el aire de nuestras propiedades. Gracias.
Thank you for that, Lilia. It's a reminder of all of the different strands of work that the Air District is currently implementing as a part of your CERP. So thank you for that feedback. So we'll just see if there's any other comments on those truck measures before we wrap up this agenda item. Okay. And if you do have anything that comes up after this, I do believe you can email the Air District, and any additional questions could be included in that FAQ that will be sent out. So thank you so much again for the presentation, and thank you so much, Bill, for being here and taking on that extra work and helping prepare and sharing your experience tonight.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Bill.
Oh, you're welcome. And I do think that in a future CERP to expedite the infrastructure would be very valuable for the community, because that's, I think, going to be a real drawback if it takes so long, you know, to get it. But you guys, I'm sure you have people on your staff that if somebody could call and get, you know, help where individuals not having to reinvent the wheel, you know, to do this, because this is territory, you know, somebody that a typical trucking company just has never had to navigate.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice if you and Carb got together and, you know, had some kind of task force or something to give some assistance with, would be, I think, very helpful to expedite getting more charging places.
And always opportunities to have some meetings outside of this space to continue that conversation, Bill, and share your ideas with the Air District and anyone else involved. The subcommittees are a good space for that. And thank you so much again. So I will transition us to our standing updates, and my colleague Michaela will walk us through those.
Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, so appreciated hearing the questions, hearing this information, and we're hoping that, yeah, this is really helpful for us. So as we transition to our standing updates for the evening, I would like to invite our truck reroute subcommittee representative to share any updates for our CSC tonight that would like to be shared beyond what we've, yes.
Good evening. It's Gregory Barfield with the City of Fresno, sharing on behalf of Scott Mosier and Jennifer Clark. As we're tag teaming some of these meetings this evening. Just a quick update: the IBI group with Kathleen Padilla and Associates, our consultants, continue their efforts on the South Central Fresno truck rerouting study. The community advisory group recently completed a poll to select 2 community events to attend. One would be Fiestas Postres, which is this weekend, this Saturday in downtown Fresno. Come on down and enjoy yourself for the day and also get surveyed. And then the Sweet Potato Festival project, which will be at Mariella Brown Community Center in October. The consultant and city staff will be attending both events and staffing those appropriate tables. The community advisory group also identified other events with which city staff plan to attend for additional community outreach efforts. And then at the last technical steering committee and CAG meeting, both were held in August with great discussions, and we hope to have the next ones in October. And then finally, under the health assessment update, University of California, Merced continues their efforts related to health assessment of the community, particularly the AB 617. In August, the university presented a fact sheet to both committees, presenting their survey findings, and these findings were based on 800 surveys completed within the AB 617 community. And they continue to do their data analysis on pregnancy outcomes, cardiovascular, EE visits, and hospitalizations, and they will collaborate with the truck reroute study consultant on the outreach events also. We expect to have a draft report by December. And that's all I got to report.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for providing that update for us and representing the city this evening. Now would love to invite the Air District to, well, yes, I would love to invite the Air District to provide an update for us regarding the annual report. We at this time invite you to share any updates you'd like to share with our group about that at this time.
Thanks, Michaela. I'll keep this very short. I'm sure people are done hearing from me tonight, but we are in the process of finishing up the draft version of this. This is the same, I know we have several newer members, and so we're required by the AB 617 blueprint to provide annual updates on the progress implementing the community emissions reduction program. And so we typically do that in the form of a written report. And we will be providing a draft, and I believe by the end of this week, hopefully maybe early next week, we'll be sending that out to people so that way we can discuss it in our October meeting and getting feedback from the steering committee members. Those reports do have to be presented to our board, and so that is looking like it would be done in November. And so that's kind of the process, and we're looking forward to people reading and reviewing and providing feedback on that document. Thanks.
Thank you, Ryan. Next, would love to, I know that we have a couple of CARB members here.
Bekela, I don't know if you knew this, but there was another Air District update that Jamie was going to provide in regards to outreach. It's a topic near and dear to all of us. On the CSC members have always shown a great interest in the outreach that's being done. And so if you're okay, I'd like to open it up to Jamie.
Absolutely.
I'll be relatively short as well. I'm just going to share a few quick slides, two to be exact. We have been out at a variety of different schools in the AB 617 Fresno community, 10 to be exact. We've been there during morning parent drop-off and afternoon pickup, and then in the evenings at some of the back to school events. We've been distributing packets of information. These packets include a whole variety of information, including why you should avoid idling your vehicle, especially because in the morning, the weather's been quite nice. There's no reason people should be idling their vehicles. And even lately in the afternoons, it's been cooperating. We've been telling people how they can get smoke ready ahead of wildfire season. We're encouraging them to sign up for AB 617 incentives, and that does include the Clean Air Room Purifier program. And we have broken the $1,000 or 1,000 unit mark in Fresno. In the AB 617 community, we've given out over 1,000 air purifiers, but that program is still open. We are still actively taking applications, and that's one of the things that we talk about with parents at the schools. We also are telling them about the other various programs, the lawnmower program, the Check Before You Burn program that folks can take advantage of. And just to go back, I'll tell you what schools we've been to. We've been to Calwa, Winchell, Malaga, Mayfair, Burroughs, Hidalgo, Heaton, Vangpao, Leavenworth, and I think we have 3 more still to go. With that, I will stop sharing and I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Jamie. We appreciate seeing the pictures. It's always fun to get a glimpse of outside while we're inside during these CSC meetings. So thank you so much for providing that update. And thanks for catching that, Ryan. I was trying to keep you on your toes, so you passed. Love it. Well, at this time, yes, if there aren't any other questions, would love to transition to our next update from CARB, if our representative from CARB would like to share that update for us tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Ryan touched on the blueprint a little bit. So we are making revisions to that blueprint, and we are taking the draft to our board in October. And I'll go ahead and place the links in the chat for you guys to check out. It'll be a link for the actual draft blueprint 2.0 is what it's being called at the moment. And then also you could take a look at the website and keep up with the date for the October board meeting. And we'll also go ahead and send an update once we know more information on that agenda. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I see in the chat that Dr. Curry asked a question. I believe this is to the AD about, will you be going to any schools in West Fresno, King, Lincoln, etc.? Thank you. Ryan or Jamie, did you want to respond to this question?
Yes, we actually have reached out to all the schools in the district, all the elementary schools. Zong, I noticed she unmuted herself as well. I'm going to turn it over to her because she knows everything about the schools.
Hi, thanks, Denise. Yes, I'm in communications with the principal, Principal Vega at West Fresno Middle School. So I'm hoping that we can go over to their campus. We went last year, so keeping my fingers crossed that we'll be able to go again. Tomorrow we'll actually be at Malaga. So it's been an exciting past month doing some outreach in Fresno.
Thank you. Just to clarify, I'm referring to additional elementary schools in West Fresno and not just the West Fresno School District or West Fresno Middle School.
As of right now, definitely they are on our list. And I've sent out some emails and made some phone calls. And so if I hear back from them, definitely we will add them onto our list to do some additional outreach out there. And we will continue to do some outreach. But if you have any connections,
I'm happy to help with that. Sure.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Curry, for asking that question and being willing to provide that extra connection support. All right. At this time, I would just generally love to pause to allow for any other general updates from any organizations that want to be brought to this time, or any other questions that maybe folks are having. I know these kind of went a little bit rapid fire and would love to provide a few moments to pause for any additional questions coming up for the group as well. Great. Well, as we transition to the next period or next portion of our meeting, please know that the chat is continually available as an option to ask questions, as well as using the unmute button to ask any questions or the raise hand feature. All right. So at this time, would love to just share generally some next steps and talk about our agenda meeting. As we closed for the evening, we would also love to reflect back the action items we've documented throughout today's call. And then while reading aloud the collected action items that we've chatted through so far, I will then proceed to provide a few seconds just of pause after each item, inviting anyone to add any clarifying questions, propose a modification to that action item. And so as I begin with the action items, would love to elevate the 3 that were raised throughout this call. The first action item was that the AD will share an updated heavy duty truck replacement project draft plan with the CSC, as well as an FAQ before the next CSC meeting, hopefully by the end of next week, but before the next CSC meeting. The AD, and then second, and so yes, that's action item number 1. any folks had any questions or concerns about that. Okay, number 2, the AD will send the CSC, the draft annual report, by early next week for the CSC to review and provide feedback at the October CSC meeting. We'll provide a moment of pause for any questions with that piece. And then thirdly, the AD will reach out to schools in West Fresno, King, Lincoln, et cetera, that are not just within the Unified School District to conduct outreach for school air filtration and wildlife readiness. And we'll continue to do outreach to folks who have the connections to support with that, such as Dr. Curry. Okay. Were there any action items that came up for folks that felt like were not quite captured in these 3 agenda items, or not agenda items, action items for today? All right. Well, if not, would love to just take a moment to share about our next meetings we have on the radar for us in our Fresno CSC. Thanks so much, Liz. So our next meeting will be Thursday, September 21st. And this is our next agenda setting meeting that we'll have. And then our next CSC meeting will be taking place on Wednesday, October 11th. So here in a few weeks at 5:30 p.m. Both events will take place on Zoom. And that really kind of covers the bulk of the content that we had for the evening. So at this time, I would now love to invite Ryan and our community co-host Bill to provide any additional next steps, comments before we open up the stage for the full group for final public comment. So Ryan or Bill, would you happen to have any additional next steps or comments that you'd like to share with our CSC tonight?
No, just good night, everyone. Buenas noches a todos. Appreciate everybody participating.
I would just like to thank everybody for being patient with me. I know I have a lot of room for improvement.
And thank you, a big thanks to Bill. You did a great job tonight.
Yes, thank you. I know I've learned a lot of content from the really valuable information you've shared, Bill. So thank you for bringing that content knowledge to our group. And thank you, each of you, for the incredible content knowledge that each of you bring to this space and in this meeting and throughout all of our meetings. So thank you for your time tonight. So as part of the final component of our Fresno CSC meeting, we now open the floor to any of the CSC members who would like to share a final public comment before we end our time. Would any of you happen to have any comments or any pieces of information or comments that you'd like to share with us for the evening? And I see a couple of comments of appreciation in the chat as well. Okay, well, everyone, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us on a Tuesday this month in September. And this now concludes the end of our September session of the AB 617 South Fresno Community Steering Committee meeting. So thank you so much for your time. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening and take care.
Thank you. Good night.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Buenas noches.